course, of MSNBC. As always, sir, our great thanks.
Thank you, Keith.
For more on the ramifications for the military, let's now turn to a Pentagon veteran from the Reagan administration, the former Assistant Secretary of Defense Lawrence Korb, who is now a fellow at the Center for American Progress. Thanks again for your time tonight, sir.
Nice to be with you again.
As Howard Feynman just said, the White House says it does not agree with the CBO assessment. Does that mean they're planning on sending 21,500 more troops into combat alone? The gunnery sergeant has to fly them over and the captain has to make the meals?
Well, you would hope not. In fact, that's how we got ourselves into trouble in the first place. Don Rumsfeld did not send enough support troops to begin with. He didn't like that logistics. He undermined the Army's logistics plan. And the idea, these people do very important things. For example, military police, which is very critical for dealing with an insurgency. Medical people, obviously, with all the number of people getting wounded over there. So if you don't do this, it means you're not going to do it right, which has been our problem right from the beginning.
In traditional combat, in most of the wars that people are familiar with, support troops would be working almost exclusively behind the front lines and less in immediate danger. But it's Iraq. Even John Bolton says it's civil war. Are not support troops in just as much danger or nearly as much danger as the combat troops?
They are sometimes even in more danger because they're the ones out escorting the fuel trucks, for example. They're the ones that have to go out as military policemen to referee this civil war. So there are no front lines. Remember, one of the first people captured in the war, we were freed, it was Private Lindy England. Basically, she was not a combat person. Women are not allowed to engage in direct combat with the ground forces. So there are no front lines. And what you want to do, make sure that you have enough of what you need to do the job. If you cut back on support troops, you're increasing the risk to the combat troops that are there.
For the military that's already at a breaking point in terms of numbers, as Howard Feynman suggested, we might be bringing our commitment now to 200,000 roughly in Iraq. Would these additional troops exacerbate the strain that we already see? Would it be past a strain and now at a break?
Well, it would certainly exacerbate the strain. It would also mean calling up many Guard and Reserve units for a second time because the way the Army is constructed, they put a great deal of the support in what they call the reserve component. And so you would have to go back again and get people, many of whom have served already close to 2 years, and bring them back again in order to get your numbers up to what you'll need in Iraq to do this thing right.
Is there any reason to get very paranoid about this and say that you're going to throw another 35,000 or 48,000 troops into Iraq that would make it easier to escalate the conflict into the region, that this is an actual hidden signal to Iran, or is that just paranoia?
Well, I don't think so. I think the reason that they didn't come out with the right number to begin with, they wanted to hold down the number going in there to make it look to the American people that this is really not much and a few more troops here will be able to get the job done. And they didn't want people to go and say, well, wait a second here, you just can't have combat because combat without support is not going to be militarily effective.
Lawrence Korb, the former Assistant Secretary of Defense in the Reagan administration, as always, sir, our great thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
And just let's clarify one thing. We were talking about Lindy England there. Mr. Korb meant Jessica Lynch, of course, not Lindy England, is one of the support personnel who was famously captured and rescued from a Iraqi hospital at the start of the shooting war in Iraq. Also tonight, a huge